Now, after the vulgar excesses of the greed is good 80s, the Debutante is making a proper comeback.
Lady, for so many years I thought I'd never find you. You have come into my life and made me whole.
In recent years, the Deb's Ball has been resurrected along the old traditional lines for a global market, with showpiece events in London, Paris, Shanghai and Dubai.
Let me hear you whisper softly in my ear.
Young ladies are once again being decked out in ball gowns and briefed in the rules of royal etiquette.
You will obviously curtsy to anyone who is a prince or princess. Princess Susan Al Said of Oman has also been invited. She is the wife of the brother of the Sultan of Oman. She is a princess. You will curtsy in the way that you have curtsied to Princess Katerina of Yugoslavia and the other royals you have met during your year. So it's very, very important.
I was intrigued to know what this old-fashioned and ornate ritual had to offer young women in the dark economic times of today. So I went to meet the organiser of the self-styled London season, Jenny Hannon-Peel.
Why would a girl who'd been through the London season be any more ladylike than one who hasn't?
Because I think it's a grooming process. I know I found that when I was a Deb. Because the average 17-year-old is really quite scruffy and is really very much involved in herself. She hasn't been trained to look outside herself, to be aware of other people in a social situation. It's totally different with their friends. They can be exactly what they want to be, totally non-communicative with parents, friends. But after a year of being a Deb, you know how to interact with people of all age groups because you're forced into those kind of situations, and you suddenly look outside yourself and realise that you need to make other people feel comfortable, not be wrapped up in your own little world. So in a way it's a growing up process.
That so-called grooming process involves a year of etiquette classes, social events and charity fundraising for the 40 girls selected. By the end of it all, they become ambassadors of a unique brand, the English lady.
I think I would consider us as ladies. We all hold ourselves in the correct manner, we act correctly. There's nothing to suggest that I think we're not.
We try to.
Yeah, we try.
I think it's kind of work in progress, and hopefully doing the season and doing the etiquette lessons for when you're abroad and everything, they help you kind of reach that goal in the end.
So do you find that there's growing appetite internationally for the English lady product?
I think whenever we go abroad, everyone wants to see total Englishness. And so that's exactly what we give them, because by the end of the year, that's exactly what they are.
Why do you think that makes them particularly English, the fact that
Well,
they have
I think
manners?
we have a code of behaviour which everyone abroad considers to be the height of good manners. And lots of other countries don't have that.
But I think it might be courteous if you are being specifically introduced to a sheikh from one of the Emirates or his wife, that you do actually cover your shoulders. Tricia and I, although
these emerging kind of wealthy economies and the emergence of the super rich class, what they want above all for their own daughters is for them to be young English ladies.
Of course. So they are giving something. Both sides are giving something. It's really interesting.
What do you think they are giving? What do you think we're giving them?
I think they have everything financially, but they don't have that indefinable quality of which they term, not my term, they term as class. And we have it in spades, and that is what is attractive to them.
And we can export it now via
we can export it.
young English ladies.
And at the same time, we can raise millions for children in need. What can possibly be wrong with that?
It's a win-win.
There was something a bit disconcerting about this idea of a glorified trade fair of perfect English ladies. So I was almost relieved to discover there had been the occasional lapse in etiquette.
Have you had any huge bloopers, though, with any of the girls?
Yes, yes. We had a total nightmare in Macedonia. We were accompanied by Princess Katerina, and we went to her former shooting lodge, which is now a winery. And we were given the most magnificent lunch there. But of course, because it's a winery, they also wanted everyone to taste all their glorious wines. And so each girl was presented with, well, first of all, there were going to be 7-course lunch. And there were 9 glasses in front of them. The one thing we'd forgotten to say to them is, you do not drink the whole glass when there are 9 glasses you're going to taste. Of course, they were just knocking it back. I was glaring at them, and of course, they were just completely knocking back every single glass. So that at the end of the lunch, they were slumped over their plates. We had to have to drag them into the coach, praying their parents wouldn't see it. So yes, there are some things we forget about.
It's a funny old world where young ladies are groomed for a nostalgic recreation of the debutante's ball, but still get totally lashed on a coach trip to Macedonia. So it's not surprising that a book's been published to help the modern lady tiptoe her way through it. This important tome comes, of course, from that blue-blooded authority on establishment protocol, Debutante. Given my own husband's comment that I'm not a lady, I was keen to find out more about etiquette for girls, so I met up with editor Joe Bryant. The old guides offered advice on letter writing and where to sit in church. The new one was far more contemporary.
The one-night stand, ONS, is a bit like fast food. Tempting but with nauseating afterthoughts. The send-off is an ideal opportunity to steal a first kiss. Set this up with a silent, smiling eyelid. If you're at his, the ONS is not over until the walk of shame. Going home in last night's dishevelled clothes. Steel yourself for the aftermath and hold your head up high.
Walks of shame, one-night stands, in Debutante.
I think there was an element of surprise that we'd suddenly jumped into the 20th century, and I think Debutante has been known, like we said, for peerage and baronetage and titled people, and all of a sudden there was this book about how young women live. We're not telling people to go out and have one-night stands, for example. It was more trying to create a guide that was actually realistic on how some women do choose to live, and if we hadn't included some of the more risque subject matters, it wouldn't have been moving on in the pace that we were aiming to do.
And was this guide inspired in any way by the rise of the ladette and girls being potty-mouthed tramps who drank too much?
We've been asked that a lot. It wasn't really a reaction against anything. It was more an idea that we looked at what we felt there was a need for, and we felt that the role of young women now was actually quite a difficult one. We've got old-fashioned rules and codes of conduct, and also this huge idea of a relaxed society that we can go out and drink. We can have boys as friends, we can live in a much more relaxed way, even in a way that our mothers couldn't. And society and manners and etiquette was changing so quickly, we thought that we should take a snapshot and try and replicate a young woman's life, absorbing all different elements and how she can live.
Did you have any particular ladylike role models in mind? Or did you find that difficult in today's market?
It was very difficult. We spent a long time deciding whether we would have a forward to the book, and we actually couldn't come up with a single person. We felt encapsulated all the different roles and situations that we talked about inside the book. We also felt that it would then stamp it with too much of a character, that when people were reading it, they might think of a certain individual.
Being a lady is a sort of faceless ideal in that case, isn't it?
To a degree, it's more the idea that it's this equipping of self-confidence. It is this idea that you can go out and, you, as a young woman, we have so many different roles. We've got careers, with some girlfriend, you might be a wife, you might have children, and all of a sudden we have all these different hats to wear and all these different scenarios, and we all do so much more. We socialise differently, we get asked to do different things through work or through our social lives. And all of us have all these situations where we think, actually, what do I wear to that? How do I behave then? Is it rude to do this? Is it right to do that? So the idea was just to kind of present it as an accessible way of decoding all these different elements of our lives.
The old etiquette books once laid out the boundaries a lady had to respect. This guide seemed to offer women a way of exerting some control in a world of unlimited freedom. So did the idea of the lady, with its connotations of decorum and restraint, offer modern women an alternative code of behaviour? It was an idea I put to feminist writer Bidisha.
So why do you think there's interest in the concept of the lady now?
I think a lot of things have come together to make women ask themselves what the future of womankind and the future of ladyhood actually is. On the one hand, at the most shallow level, you could say, okay, it's to do with fashion, that we don't like the kinds of representations of us that are out there in the media. They seem very cheapening, very objectifying. There's often more flesh than cloth. So you turn on music videos, you look in a tits paper like the Sun or the Star, and you think, that's not the model of womanhood that I respond to. And I'm sure lots of women and lots of intelligent men who appreciate women don't either. So what's another way? Okay, and a reaction to that is to cover up, and then you have this movement towards looking at those, you know, those reissued books which are like rules of style, etiquettes of style.
Absolutely, we've looked at them.
They are brilliant because it's not about being this fake lady type lady. I think it's about bringing a kind of formality and elegance back into a culture which is really quite vulgar.
Bidisha wasn't just advocating ladylike fashion. She was proposing a wholesale reinvention of the lady.
I think that it's now divorced from notions of class and background, which is what it was weighed down with before, and we can do with it what we want. We're at a perfect time to subvert the idea of the lady. I think it has been very problematic in the past, but that if you look at things like fashion and new trends just in lifestyle, and also you look at culture, there's a great space, I think, to take back the notion of the lady as someone who is empowered and strong.
So you're saying not only let's keep the word lady and the term lady, but let's multiply by a million, many millions, the number of ladies out there.
We completely transform the word and we transform the definition. We turn it into something which is associated with just being a brilliant, strong, sisterly woman. I think it's
With now even an ardent feminist like Bidisha seeking to reclaim the lady for a new age, just how far had we come from that high Victorian ideal with its taint of privilege and inequality?
A young woman without family connections or fortune? Is this to be endured? It shall not be.
Women are no longer bound by strict codes of etiquette and behaviour. We're no longer forced to conform to elaborate rules of dress and deportment.
A little slicker, please, dear.
We can straddle horses and bikes with impunity. So why might women still aspire to be ladies?
I think it was Simone de Beauvoir who said that you are not born a woman, you become one. So the idea that we have to become a lady on top of a woman is a whole added area of complexity and endeavour.
The fact that women are still prepared to take on that extra challenge suggests Diana Mather might be right.
We now should be secure in our own genders, not to have to behave like men, to be taken seriously, because we know we can do the job just as well, but to keep our femininity, and I think that's quite important.
Thanks to decades of advancement, are women really so secure they can afford to revisit the customs and practices of a bygone age where girls curtsied to a cake and never raised their voices? I think the real reason for the resurgence of the lady is more likely to be that in times of economic insecurity, society becomes more conservative. And in a competitive job market, the gloss the training lends a lady-in-waiting is an asset. a little elegance and formality goes a long way.
If you're walking into a job interview, or even kind of meeting the boyfriend's parents or that kind of thing, it's just nice to know what the protocol is and what's kind of acceptable and what isn't.
But in the end, I'm not sure I approve. It seems strange to go backwards to white gloves and tiaras in order to go forwards. But still, if a middle-class girl from Berkshire can become a princess, anyone with the right training can also become a lady.
Bye!
Bye!
Maybe even me.
You once, twice, 3 times a lady.
No one is safe as Livia spreads her poison. Classic drama I, Claudius continues here on BBC4 next.
Yes, you once, twice, 3 times.